Welcome to No Makers Podcast. We've got a special guest today.
Yes, we do.
His name is Ben. He's from the band Census. And he's got a pretty dope song that I was on TikTok and found him talking about what he'll go more in depth of Apeirophobia. Is that right, Ben?
Yeah, Apeirophobia.
Apeirophobia, sorry. Which is a really interesting thing. I'd never heard of it before. So I reached out to him to see if it's something he'd be interested in talking to us about. And he said, yeah, let's do it. And here we are. So what we'll do on this episode, we'll play some of the song. We'll let you kind of tell us about what it is and then play more of the song and just keep doing that. But first things first, how you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're good. Before we started recording, you said that you were sitting in a Little Caesars parking lot, and I think that's kind of the vibe for the year. Is we're all just kind of sitting in a Little Caesars parking lot. So
we never left.
Yeah, sure.
We're still there. We're all still sitting in the Little Caesars parking lot with you. So
that's the dimension of 2020 is a Little Caesars parking lot. Doesn't matter.
So Apeirophobia, what is it?
Okay, so Apeirophobia is basically the fear of eternity or like infinity, but it's not so much like I think about the fact that somebody could sit and count numbers and until they die, like numbers never end. That doesn't really freak me out, but like the existence part of it is kind of what most people like struggle with that have Apeirophobia. And, you know, because it's just like, for me anyway, I believe that whenever I die, my consciousness will still be around forever. I'm a Christian, by the way, so I believe like whenever I die, I'll go to heaven, which like most people would be like, hell yeah. That was funny. That was kind of ironic. Hell yeah, I'm going to go to heaven. But for me, it's like, yeah, that's sick, but just being like, I looked up the definition before a couple hours ago, actually, because I was trying to like kind of catch up on my research and stuff, so I'd have things to say. And in the definition, it talks about people like that they feel like it's kind of a form of torture almost, like you're trapped there. And so that's kind of the way that I feel about it as well. It's like just the fact that my soul or my consciousness could exist forever with no end is like really scary.
It's a baffling concept, and just a little background. Jesse, were you brought up in Christian households? So all of us were brought up in Christian households. That's actually where me and Ben met, was in church bands and stuff. And I think all of us have more or less lost our faith, at least in the organized religion sense.
Or you could even say just evolved in certain ways. Yeah.
But I think that the aspect of eternity is something that's very hard to grasp for everyone, because it doesn't make sense. There's no logic to it, and we're very logical creatures. We like to think in absolutes, and eternity is something that's not an absolute thing. It has no absolute because it's eternity. It's infinite. It's a very weird concept. And growing up in Christianity and church and stuff, it was something that was like a double-edged sword, so to speak, which is kind of what you've touched on already, with it being like a torture almost, because it's like it's a thing that Christians look forward to, but it's also something that doesn't make any sense, and like you're like you said, trapped there. So it's a baffling concept.
It reminds me.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you go ahead.
No, you can go ahead. I was thinking, it was funny though, while you were talking, I was thinking about, I don't know if you guys watch like Rick and Morty.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Whatever.
Mr. Meeseeks, like, existence is pain.
Yeah. That's
yeah, we were both thinking the same exact thing.
Well, and it's such a weird thing. And we can touch on religion and stuff here in a little bit. We can kind of talk more about the song and focus on that and kind of dive all over the place. But just the idea of eternity in heaven, and again, growing up in church, it was always painted in a way that was like eternal worship to the Creator, which for me now doesn't make any sense. And I don't know what your experience is with religion and church, and we can maybe dive a little bit more into that if that's something that kind of ties back into the Apeirophobia. But as far as the song goes, what was the process with writing that? What kind of came first? Was it the lyrics or the vocals or the melody music? How did that kind of come about?
So every song we write is different. We don't really have a set way to do it. For this one, we made the music first, which we used to do a lot, with like when the band first started making music.
How long have you guys been around?
That was usually the way we would do it, is music first. And I have like a shitty recording setup, you know. Can I curse on here, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't give a fuck.
Okay. Oh yeah. So I have like this little recording setup or whatever, and we'll just make demos and stuff. And then I would try to add vocals to them later. This one was kind of tricky though, because we used to be like a full on like metalcore kind of band, and we had like people that screamed for us.
Nice.
I wasn't even originally like the lead singer of Census. I sang, but I also played guitar, and then the majority of the vocals in our songs were screams. And so we were going through like this kind of transitional period with this song, which I think is also really cool that it's become like, it's our most streamed song, you know. It just passed 400,000 streams on Spotify. But it's such a staple for us because it was also like the first song that we made, that Census made, where we were trying to do something different and kind of shift into a new genre. And so, and also I guess you'd have to listen to some of the stuff we're making that's unreleased, but we're moving more and more to like a pop rock kind of sound, I guess, like more like bands like Bring Me the Horizon or Stand Atlantic or something like that. But yeah, so we were trying out this new thing, and our screamer had just quit the band. And so we had this guy that wanted to be in the band with us, and we had just done like a short tour with him actually, and he was really cool. Everything was going well. And I started writing this song, and it was actually pretty funny. So we used to be like strictly a Christian band as well, which we're not anymore. But to be clear, everyone in Census is like individually still Christian. We just decided that like making only Christian music is not something we want to do, because I like to talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about, you know, and I didn't want to restrict myself in that way. So we started writing this song, and I was showing like what I think I had like a verse and a chorus, and I showed it to this guy. His name was Dalton Davis. Shout out Dalton if you're listening. But I wrote the first verse and the first chorus, and I showed it to him, and I was trying to tell him what it was about. Because when we're a Christian band, especially when you're a Christian metal band, there's like a lot of pressure to not just be like, God rules, yeah. Like that's the song, you know, you want to make it more interesting. So I would try to think of interesting topics. And probably the biggest thing I've always struggled with in Christianity is my apeirophobia. And I didn't even put a name on it until I started writing this song. But I was like, so I'm going to try and write this song about how I should like rejoice in the fact that I think I'm going to get to live forever someday. But it actually fucking terrifies me to like the bone. But I remember trying to explain that to him, and he totally like just did not get it. And it was so weird because it's one of those things where I was like, I thought that if I explained it to people, everyone would be able to understand it if I like explained it well. But I was like trying my fucking hardest to like get him to understand the concept of eternity and how it freaks me out. And he was totally just like, yeah, man, I guess I just don't really get it. Like, it's just not scary to me. And then eventually, sorry if I went on like a big tangent.
No, you're fine. But, that's what this is about.
He decided that it was best for him to not be in the band. And so then at that point, that was where I was like, okay, guys, I think I'm going to try to sing for the whole song, which was really hard for us because we've never approached it that way before. And it's with really heavy music, sometimes it's hard to fit vocals around that as well. Sure. But that was the first song we did it with, and it was a freaking banger, and it's been really well received.
I'll say you guys did a great job, just from a structural aspect of the song itself. It's very well done. It's structured very well. The flow of it is perfect. Jesse's really into that style of music, and when I put it on for him before we started recording to kind of give him a vibe of what the song was, he was like, yeah, this is right up my alley. Yeah. So that's a good point for us to good part for us to play some of the song. I'll play maybe a verse and a chorus. So I'll start it playing here now.
I feel cold for the first time in my life. I'm afraid of losing the world. A revelation on my skin, it plants a seed and it begins to haunt me. At night I can't sleep.
There and kind of talk about that part there. Ben, you look like you have something that you want to ask.
It's well, not really ask. It's just tasty. I don't know. I enjoy all of it. It's groovy. It's catchy. Production's really
the
done
production
well.
of it is just perfect. Mm-hmm. The vocals are butter too. I just want to point that out. The
Great
harmonies
job.
that you have. Whoever I don't know. Do you guys record everything yourself, or do you go somewhere to have all that stuff done?
Well, first of all, thank you guys so much. It's so flattering. I'm glad you guys dig it. But yeah, shout out to Nathan Close, Cloos is his last name. Nathan is the guy we've been working with ever since we did that song and even a song before that one.
Okay, dope.
And he's just a guy that lives in Arkansas that found us one day and hit us up, and he's like the most fucking talented mixing engineer ever. So we're super lucky to get to work with him. We record, so like I was saying about the demos earlier, we will record like pretty much everything ourselves. And then we take all of the effects and everything off and just send the dry tracks to Nathan, and then he mixes it for us. And then we have like other people for mastering and stuff like that.
Sweet. That's it. It really shows just the professionalism with the way that it's done. Oh, yeah. Like not only the structure of the song, like I said, I mean the dynamics of everything was just. Butter is the only way to describe it.
Margarine, maybe?
Margarine.
No, it's not as fake as that.
It's not. It's the real stuff.
It's like that real 100% buttermilk butter that you get from
like the
Whole
Amish
Foods.
butter.
Yeah,
like the good stuff. So what we can do is kind of just talk about the lyrics a little bit. Do you want to read the lyrics, or do you want me to read them and then we can kind of talk about them?
That would be great if you could read them for me, so I don't have to think about it.
So the lyrics of that little bit there that I played is, I feel cold for the first time in my life. I'm afraid of losing the world. Horripilation on my skin, and we'll talk about that in a second because I have no idea what the fuck that is. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the whole first verse is kind of just describing the way it makes me feel. And I think something I want to touch on is when I made that TikTok that you saw, I was honestly blown away by the amount of people who said that they have it too, and that were like, holy shit, this is something that other people have, and like you put a name to it. That's really, really cool. So I just thought that was really, really cool. But I feel cold for the first time in my life. I'm afraid of losing the world. So like whenever those thoughts creep up, like my apeirophobia kind of like takes over my mind for a bit, I always get cold. Like I have like that cold shiver on my spine or whatever, like hairs on my back of my neck stand up. I feel cold for the first time in my life. I'm afraid of losing the world. Where that lyric comes from, that one is directly related to like my faith. So I was brought up Christian as well. My parents are Christian. And that's just always been the thing I struggle with. And I was actually thinking about this earlier when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about. I remember the very first time that I remember like feeling my apeirophobia. And I was very young. I was in the car. I think I was in the passenger seat with my dad, or maybe even the back seat. It might have been really, really long time ago. But he was just going to Walmart to get some groceries or something. And I was just thinking about like, yo, so when I die, if I go to heaven, what's after heaven? Nothing. I'm just there forever. And I was just sitting there thinking about that. And I got that same feeling. And it's the same every time. I just get cold, and like it just kind of eats away at you, and you just fill up with anxiety.
Well, and that's kind of so we all kind of grew up in relatively the same environment. I mean, every church is different, so it's not the exact same experience, but we all kind of had the same, I guess, baseline, where faith was a thing that we all experienced at one point in time. I think the church has done a disservice for the aspect of doubt. And churches that kind of deal with that are far and few between, that deal with it in a very constructive way. A lot of churches that myself and my wife have been to don't allow room for doubt. If you doubt, then you're a sinner and you're going to hell and that kind of thing. And that definitely doesn't help with that phobia of eternity, because, well, if you have doubts, well, you're going to hell, and that hell is worse than the heaven, and it kind of snowballs. And just having that thought of like, oh, that doesn't make sense, is what people don't give you the room to experience. At least my experience has been. I don't know if it's the same for you, if you had a better church life growing up. But that's kind of my experience with it, is that like having those thoughts were deemed bad, and that you should not have those thoughts. So if you start to have them, you should suppress them and not speak about them.
Right. So I think it kind of, I hate to say this, but I think it kind of comes down to denomination a little bit.
Yeah, so for sure.
The first churches I remember going to were like Baptist churches, and it was very much that kind of, like, they kind of instill fear in you a little bit, which could be argued to be a tactic. I personally don't think it's ever the best tactic to like try and use fear to bring somebody closer to God or something like that.
100%.
But I think when I was like 10 years old, I'm 20 now, by the way, if you guys didn't know that. When I was about 10 years old, my family started going to this non-denominational church, and that's where we still go. And I love it. Like it's really great. There's so many things about religion that I think are bullshit. Like just all there's rules and things that go along with it that mess with your head that shouldn't. Like there's people that think like if you go to church, you shouldn't wear a hat or something like that. I literally,
it's very much
you can
so
see in my
Baptist
TikToks, I wear a fucking beanie or a hat in every every video, and I wear it to church also, and like it doesn't matter. So I think and also my pastor is a really, really cool guy. His name's Joe Fisher. And like I think just having somebody like that's influencing you in your faith is a really, really great thing to have. 'Cause like whenever I have like doubts and questions and stuff, he's just like a homie. It feels like it's not like a scary thing. And I'll text him sometimes and be like, just ask him questions and see what he thinks about things. But yeah, as far as religion, like I think a lot of it, you just really, I don't know. It's, I got to be careful the way I word this.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I think you guys know what I mean. Like there's so many things about religion that I just think don't matter. And I just try to focus on the love and the Jesus like aspect of it.
I definitely think there's a very fine line between religion and spirituality, and when you cross the line into religion, it gets a lot more
rules and doctrine,
yeah, almost
and theology.
Sort of, you can say it is kind of somewhat cult-esque, but when you get down to what Christianity and everything like that should be, is much more of a spiritual thing than anything.
Well, and to your point of Jesus and like when whether or not he was here, I still kind of wrestle with, and that whole thing I want so badly to believe, but part of me just can't get past myself to allow myself to believe it anymore. But going away from that, the whole idea of who Jesus was love, not fear. Mm-hmm. You know. And that's what a lot of churches have kind of gotten away from, is the love aspect of what Christianity is supposed to be instead of being a fear-based religion. I don't think it was ever intended to be, but it's been weaponized by a lot of churches to be so.
The actual intention is an incredibly good thing. The actual
execution
is not so much.
Ironically, the last church that me and my wife went to was a Baptist church, and it was the most accepting of us experiencing doubt and wrestling with losing faith. And that shout out to Darren Cherry. He is probably the closest thing to Jesus that I have ever met. So
Darren's great, yeah.
But yeah, all that to say, going back into the lyrics, what is heripulation?
Heripulation. So this is kind of funny. Everybody in my band, whenever they read that lyric, was like, what the fuck is that? So a lot of times whenever I'm writing songs, it's really, really fucking funny. People tell me all the time, like they ask me how I write songs, and they're like, I'm just no good at it. Like, I wish I was better. I could never do like what you do. But literally, I think if you're smart enough to know whenever you write something that sucks, you're good enough to make it not suck. And that's basically what I do. So I'll like start with a line or an idea that I have, and it'll be dog shit. And then I'll be like, okay, so it sucks. What can I do to make it better?
Yeah.
And so a lot of like the big tools I use are just like thesauruses, like online thesauruses. Nice. And fucking dictionaries. And there's this website called Rhyme Zone that I love to use. You just type in a word and it gives you every word that rhymes with it or comes close to rhyming with it. So for heripulation, I think I was just trying to think of, like I said, just a way to explain the way it makes me feel. And while I was researching that, I found this word heripulation, and heripulation is whenever you get goosebumps, but out of fear.
Ooh.
And so I thought it was like a perfect word. And like just the way the syllables fit in that part, heripulation, I think it's like really dope. So
it has a nice cadence to it when you're singing it. I think some of the best songs have words that you don't know that you got to go look up.
Yeah.
It at least for me, the bands that I used to listen to that were kind of in the same genre as what you guys have in this song tend to have a lot more of those like meaningful lyrics.
Yeah.
And you can tell that they put intent behind what they said because you have to go look up a word that they used.
The best songs are have meanings that you can't just figure out just by reading the lyrics. You have to dig more into it.
Which is part of why I wanted to have you on, is because the song is such a great song in itself, but kind of diving deeper into it. And I we didn't know who you guys were until I found you on TikTok, and Ben's kind of became a fan of his own. He's followed you guys on Facebook and listened to the
Instagram
your
newest songs. Great new song, by the way, that you just dropped.
So
Thank you.
You've gained a few fans just from the TikTok stuff that you're doing. So keep trucking along with that. I know it can be daunting. Marketing at any rate, even if you don't consider it marketing, is exhausting. We've all experienced it. We're in different realms of different things ourselves, even with this podcast. So we understand how it can be exhausting and daunting, but it's working for you. So keep it up. But
yeah, thank you.
Real quick, how long have you guys been a band?
Okay, so the original members in Census, I'll say right now Census is just me, our guitarist Bo, and our bassist Jathan. We don't have a drummer right now. We're kind of like messing around with different people and experimenting with that. But we're the ones that are like the core in writing the music right now. Jathan just joined last year, I think. But Bo and I have been making music together since 2012, I believe. And we used to be in this really shitty metalcore band called Comeback of the Year. And we still have like our EP. It was called High Tides. It's on like Bandcamp and stuff. You can still go listen to it if you want to torture yourself. But so we've been making music for a long time. And then I think it was 2015 or maybe 2014 whenever I was like, hey, what if we made music that didn't suck? And so we started Census after that.
I think we all have that moment when we want to make music that doesn't suck.
No, I haven't had it yet.
You haven't struck that yet?
I haven't had it yet.
I don't know. Absolute Love Affair is pretty. We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah. What I'll do now, I'll play a little bit more of the song because there's a portion kind of at the end of the song that I was what kind of struck me wanting to talk to you about. So I'll go ahead and play from the last line into what I don't know if that would be like a breakdown or like a second verse, whatever you want to call it. But we'll hop into it.
I'm stuck contemplating my constant secreting of thoughts while I rot in this infinite hello there. Frantic nighttime prayer, bleed infinity swallows me and I can feel eternity. I'm looking up, but all I see is the bottom. Why is my mind so small? I just wanna understand where I even get to live it all. And it's burning in my mind to think that I could even stand the test of time. When every other sleepless night I'd rather die than see the light.
So I guess I kind of didn't finish the chorus the first time, so that was my bad. But the second verse, I guess, is what it would be, is what kind of struck me wanting to talk to you about the song. And I'll just kind of read through the lyrics here. I'm looking up, but all I see is the bottom. Why is my mind so small? I just want to understand why I even get to live it all. And it's burning in my mind to think that I could even stand the test of time when every other sleepless night I'd rather die than see the light. Which that like really struck a chord with me because this past year has been just shit for everybody. Yeah. Whether you've experienced COVID or you've experienced economic issues or whatever, just the whole year has been shit. And I've dove down some deep rabbit holes that have me like questioning existence and why we're here. And so part of that is kind of how I lost my faith is if we're here, then there can't be anything out there. And that's like a existential crisis that I've had this year just from everything going on. But I kind of struck a chord with those lyrics of I just want to understand why I even get to live at all. It's burning in my mind to think that I could even stand the test of time. 'Cause like we're all here, you know, like we're here and there has to be a reason, but I don't know if that's us trying to like be human and find meaning in things that don't have meaning. Why don't you explain the lyrics a little bit and then we'll jump into it?
Right. Yeah, no, I totally feel you. I'm looking up, but all I see is the bottom. So that one to me is kind of obvious. It's like there's a couple things I think about whenever I think about what I was thinking when I wrote that lyric. It's when you're like at rock bottom and it looks like there's no way you're going to get out of it. And so like one of the things I think of is like the movie Get Out. If you guys have seen that, whenever he gets like hypnotized and sent to the sunken place, I always think of that scene with that line where he's like looking up like into the abyss, but he's only looking at himself. Like there's seemingly no hope. And then there's also this song I like by This Wild Life, where the singer says, "I thought we hit rock bottom and then the floor gave out." And so that's what that line's about. Just like kind of feeling hopelessness. Looking up, I see the bottom. Why is my mind so small? I just want to understand why I even get to live at all. Yeah, so that's literally Apeirophobia in a fucking nutshell. It just doesn't make sense. And like you were saying, I actually had a conversation with a really good friend of mine recently about Apeirophobia because he had found out that that's what the song is about. So he was asking me about it and how I deal with it. But that's what it is, man. It's just like existential crisis.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Fucking, that's what my friend was talking to me about. I hadn't talked to him in months. And he just like wasn't reaching out, got off of Facebook, wasn't talking to anybody. And then he finally started talking to me again. And he was like, dude, whenever COVID hit, I was forced to not work and sit at home. And all there is to do is think. And when all there is to do is think, you think a little too much sometimes and you're just alone with your thoughts. And it just became him like spinning out and wondering literally what is the point of anything. And I remember he said people would hit him up and be like, yo, like, why aren't you on Facebook anymore? And then he told me in his mind, he was just like, bro, what you don't understand is that none of this fucking matters. Like, who cares if I'm on Facebook or not, whenever I'm going to be floating around in space and time forever. Like,
dude, I have had those thoughts numerous times this year. Like me and your buddy are like on the same wavelength. And I guess is that Apeirophobia or is that just an existential crisis?
Well, so obviously I self-diagnosed myself with Apeirophobia. For sure. I just like did research and looked it up. I think the way that I can describe Apeirophobia is just that if you're afraid of being around forever, then that's what I would say Apeirophobia is, because that's what it is for me.
I think going back a little bit to that social media thing, one very sucky thing right now, if you don't want to be a part of social media or Facebook or any of that stuff, it sucks if you're an artist or anything like that, because that's where you need to do all of your marketing and all of your outsourcing and, reaching out to people. So it kind of tends to suck for your mental health if you're hating that reality that you need to use that, but that's the reality.
That's the duality of the life we're living right now.
And I'm sure you've had to deal with that, with your own band and your own music and marketing and, being out there as a band.
Yeah, for sure. I actually saw a TikTok recently. There's an artist I really, really like. And she was talking about the same thing. She was like, man, it sucks that I have to like be on social media because it's not really that great for my mental health. Yeah. But like, I literally, if you're not connected and like relevant, then you'll just fall off, and people, not that they don't care, but they'll just forget to like be in you, basically.
Because that's where you see people's presence. That's how you know someone is a person nowadays, which completely sucks.
Yeah.
Is because if you're not on there, then it's as if you aren't necessarily real at all. In the world, the modern age that we live in today with the internet, of course you are. But it's, I don't know, it's terrible.
It's a double-edged sword because it's a great tool, but it's used for fear.
Yeah. And also, another thing, you're on the internet for eternity.
Well, yeah.
As well.
That's what's so wild about the generation that we're all in right now, is that everything we do is traceable. Mm-hmm. Like everything.
Pretty much.
From Facebook to Instagram to YouTube to Apple Music to Apple Podcasts to Spotify. Mm-hmm. Everything that we as creatives do is traceable and follows you.
Yeah.
For infinity. Whenever this machine that we have going stops running, it's still going to go. Mm-hmm. And that's
also life.
Well, that's
a whole other thing.
Oh, and so part of where I've ended up now is so to your point of what you said initially, that you believe your consciousness continues on, there's an alternative path with that, I guess. So you have the Christian belief that believes we all go to heaven, and then there's a belief, and I don't know if it's Hindu or Buddhism or what it is, but they also believe that your consciousness continues on, but it goes into like an ether realm, or I haven't done a whole lot of research into it. I have friends that have done research about it and told me about it, and it seems like a cool thing to think about, but they're all just thought experiments. We're all just trying to figure out what life is and what our purpose is.
Yeah.
But that's another kind of like extension of the arm of eternity that makes no sense. Like you're just replacing God with the ether.
Yeah.
And
I mean, what I have always kind of seen is my general point of view of what I more so believe now, and is a sort of realm of reincarnation, and maybe you do live on for eternity, but you don't necessarily always have the same sort of consciousness. There's always certain things instilled within you, but it's not like it's like you wake up one day and you have amnesia, so you have all of your general habits and things like that, but you're not the same as you were before, so you don't have the pain of their previous existence.
Like reincarnation never made sense to me until this year.
Yeah.
And it's because I always thought of it as you are the thing that is reincarnated, not... So, like, the idea of reincarnation is not that your consciousness reincarnates. It's that your consciousness chooses to experience life again. So, from birth to death, you experience life in a new way. That's a new experience. It's a new consciousness.
Yeah.
That your consciousness from the ether is experiencing anew. Mm-hmm. Which it's still, like, it doesn't make sense when you talk about it out loud, but it also kind of does.
There's a lot of different ways to really approach that subject. You don't have to think about it in just that way. There's a lot of different things.
Well, and that's where I've kind of come to this year, is that no one is objectively right. Everyone's just trying to figure out what is their truth.
Yeah.
Like what reality is. Because nobody's going to know for sure until we're done.
Yeah.
Till this machine that I'm working with stops working, I won't know what the truth is beyond what I experience in my day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. And that's just the reality of the situations we're all in. But we kind of went on a tangent there. We're supposed to be talking about your song, but we're talking about
No,
ethers and
Reincarnation.
No, I like whenever when people talk about this kind of stuff. I'm definitely kind of like you guys were saying earlier. I'm definitely one of those people that like is not afraid of questions and doubt. Something I was thinking about while you guys were talking is there was somebody left a comment. I can't remember if it was on Instagram or if it was on TikTok, but it was on that I Can Feel Eternity video, and somebody said, "Listen, bro, whenever we die, it's just over. Like it's blackness.
The lights are out,
and there's nothing to worry about. So there you go, problem solved. Don't worry about it." And I was like, when I read it, I just laughed. I just thought it was funny because it was like you guys were saying earlier, nobody can say for sure.
Yeah.
And I remember being young and, like ignorant and like a good Christian boy. And I was like, I want to bring as many people to Christ as I can. And so I remember being really young and Googling the question, how to prove that God is real. And I read this article from this Christian guy that is talking about how to approach something like that. And the very first thing in the article, he says, okay, so step one is never say, here's how I'm going to prove that God is real to you. Because you can't do it. You can only prove things that you have evidence of or that you can see or touch and things like that. And so the way you just have to approach it is where the evidence comes from your experiences. And so that for me with Christianity is like how I cope with my apeirophobia and ultimately why I'm a Christian. Because like the way that I think about it is if Earth and the human race and everything that's working together perfectly in harmony and is so intricate is possible, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
We're people. We can think for our own. We can be like, I want to grab this cup and fucking pick it up with our arms. We can have sex and reproduce and keep life going. Same with all other animals. We get cut, our wounds heal. We break our bones, those heal too. If all of that is possible in such a meticulous way that it can't be by chance, you know what I mean?
100%.
So if all of that is possible, then how can anybody say that life after death is not also possible?
Yeah, that's sound logic.
Because like I'm saying, nobody can say for sure, but if all of this is possible, then it's kind of a dick move to just disagree with somebody in like a way that's not just to have a conversation. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the biggest part of where we're at in 2020 America is that nobody can have a conversation. It's always going into a conversation to prove one's biases against another to disprove another person's belief. That's what we all experience now, and it's unfortunate that we can't have conversations like what we're having right now. I think everything you're saying is sound. I mean, if you go based on logic, if one thing is a possibility, then all things could be possibilities. The only issue is if you start believing one thing, you can rabbit trail into believing all sorts of things, like myself and my father-in-law and everyone else that I kind of surround myself with, conspiracies and whatnot.
I think an interesting excerpt is that what, say, my version of heaven and your version of heaven, those two things are completely different, but at the same time, you can have different things with different names that end up being the same thing. Just like what emotion is to me is someone else's spirituality. What someone's religious experience is someone else's emotional response.
Well,
what someone's heaven is someone's afterlife. Just so many different ways to approach things like that.
Well, and that's all based on experiences, and when you start experiencing new things, you have new names for things because you understand certain things differently.
I think that's kind of a downfall of the English language is you're unable to always accurately portray what you really actually believe and see in your head and what you actually want to convey.
Well, and I think that's why music and arts exist the way that they do.
For sure.
Is to try and convey it in a different medium that maybe makes more sense.
Yeah, it conveys things beyond words.
Yeah. Which I truly do believe that you've done with the song that we're talking about today. Because it's done enough to get us enticed with the lyrics and the emotion behind the lyrics and the song itself to want to talk to you for almost an hour about it. So it's art is the catalyst to express what can't be expressed in just words.
Yeah.
That's
right. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
What we'll do right now is take a quick break. We'll do an ad read and then we'll hop back on and talk a little bit more.
Sure.
Back. Ben, we're going to talk to him about Sparrow.
Ooh, Sparrow.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of really awesome things in the works for Sparrow. We've got a lot of things on the horizon for 2021. We're kind of taking it easy till the end of the year, kind of taking a step back, regrouping, and figuring out what we can do for 2021. And good God, do we have some big plans.
We got a lot of exclusive, little maybe limited edition type things.
Some drops coming. Some interesting things that we didn't expect to have included in the drops coming out. Mm-hmm. But until then, what can they do to still get some discounts on the stuff we have there now?
Well, I believe they can use code MMP at sparrowcloth.com. That is SPERCLOTH.com.
You forgot an O in there, bud.
Well, add an O.
Where at?
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't even know.
I don't know.
So stop going. I think I just glitched out there. For those that are at home that can't see, Ben was talking about sparrowcloth.com. You can use code MMP for 10% off your entire order. We still have pre-orders on beanies going right now, which, Ben, you have some people you need to talk to
I do have some
to get some pre-orders going. We will get those out to those that have ordered shortly. We've just got to keep getting pre-orders.
Yeah, we got to keep getting
But we've got a lot of other cool stuff on there, too. Shirts, hoodies, shirts and hoodies. But we'll have a lot of cool stuff coming. But we'll hop back into this interview with Ben.
Yeah.
Ben, you still there?
I'm here.
So as far as the band goes, you talked a little bit about the process with recording. You said you started with the music itself first and then kind of put the lyrics to the music, or did you start with the lyrics and then start with the music and then add the lyrics to the music, or how did that kind of go?
You're talking about just for this song?
Yeah, for this song.
Yeah, for this one, we started with the music. So the music I don't think any of it changed from what it was when it was the demo. And then I basically wrote the lyrics and the vocal melodies at the same time. So I would just listen to the song and think about what I wanted to say and just tried to make it work.
Yeah. Feel out what comes after the last thing that you just wrote.
Generally how that works.
Really?
Yeah. It really shows in the lyrics that I haven't listened to any of the other songs, admittedly. Ben, you have.
Yeah.
But just from this one song, I can tell that you do take a lot of care in what you say and how you say it. Just for the fact that we're talking on the podcast now about it. And I didn't get the vibe of it being about heaven. I kind of felt like it was more or less where I'm at in my journey of existential crisis and trying to figure out if there's meaning to life. And you being a Christian kind of took me off guard. Not that it's a bad thing or anything, but it's not. I didn't expect it having taken meaning in a different way from the song without knowing you. So
I think that's the cool thing about music is you're able to take multiple different interpretations from one's own lyrics that could mean something entirely different than what you expect.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say too. I think, like I said about trying to, when we were a Christian band, because this song was still the era where we hadn't decided that we were just going to write about whatever we wanted yet. And so I was trying to think of ways to keep it Christian, but make it interesting. And like you said about I am very, very, very particular about the way that I word things as a vocalist. And that's also something that led to me becoming the lead vocalist. Is when we would have other vocalists, I was pretty much still the one that wrote all the lyrics, and I was very particular about it and protective of it. I didn't really like other people messing with it. So it's nice now to just be able to do it myself.
Right.
But yeah, just, I try to write songs that are relatable, but can be, I don't like necessarily always writing a song where you know exactly what it's about. And I think especially with this song and maybe the next two that we wrote after it, The More You Pour is another one of those where it's you can tell there's emotion behind the lyrics, but you can take it in a lot of different directions.
It really shows. And we actually, I think, talked about it on the last podcast about how
being vague is your biggest tool enough, as a musician, as a lyricist,
but also
especially.
specifically vague. I think is the way that we put it in the last episode, which is such a weird concept. But anyone who writes music understands completely what you're saying, which you've done very well with the way that you presented the song. It's specifically vague enough to take the meaning that you intended for the Apeirophobia, but not attach any other meaning outside of that other than the existential dread or crisis that you attach to Apeirophobia, which is, again, it's such a well-crafted song. I mean, it truly is. And I didn't realize you were only 20 years old. That's amazing. I thought you were in your mid-20s at least. So kudos to you for being a exceptional songwriter so early on in life.
Thank you. I really, really, really appreciate that.
Now, I'm curious, as a vocalist, did you have much vocal training before you really started singing, or how'd that come about, essentially? Just curious.
Not really. So I feel very, very lucky with the way that I found out that I like to sing. When I was in kindergarten, I would watch Drake and Josh on TV, just like everybody else in kindergarten. And I was like, yo, Drake and Josh is the coolest motherfucker I've ever seen. So I basically at first was just mimicking his personality at a very young age. So I was like, man, I'm going to fucking grow my hair out and have 10 kindergarten girlfriends and write songs and sing and stuff. And and I stuck with it, because through doing that, it only took a couple years to where I was like, yo, if I was not singing, then I don't know what I'd be doing, because it's the only thing I like to do.
Right.
Quick fun fact about Drake. He recently changed his name and dipped to Mexico. It was Drake Bell. He changed it to Drake Campagna. And he moved to Mexico to write Spanish music. He sings in Spanish. That is all he does now. So
that's fascinating.
Just a fun fact for anyone listening that did not know.
That can't see at home.
That can't see at home. Specifically people that cannot see, again, because we do not record this podcast.
We don't record this podcast?
This
hasn't been recording the entire time?
This has not been recording the entire time. I am so sorry, Ben.
We wasted
your time. All right. You had something you wanted to.
Did I?
Did you?
I don't think I did.
All right.
I don't know.
Well, we're back on our bullshit. So,
Did you take choir or anything in school?
Yeah. So I started in band actually. In middle school, I was in band, like concert band, and my freshman year of high school, I was in marching band. And then when in my freshman year, that was the last year of high school that I actually enjoyed because I still had friends, and like my cousin and my brother were both seniors the year that I was a freshman, so we got to hang out in band and in some other classes and stuff. And then all my friends moved away and they graduated. So I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was in choir and said it was really fun. And since I sing anyway, I was like, yeah, I'll give that a shot. So I did choir, finished out high school doing choir every year, and I really enjoyed that. And then also I went to college for 2 years to study music education so that I could be a high school choir director.
Wow.
So I know a lot about choir, but I ended up dropping out a couple months ago just to pursue music for a living because I realized like I was kind of settling, and also the girlfriend I had spoken about earlier, we broke up, and I was just doing a lot of thinking, and I was like, yo, like not taking risks and just going for something stable is not something I give a fuck about right now. Like I like music, and so I think I'm good enough and Census is unique enough that we could possibly do it for a living if we did it right and like had the right team and people involved. And so I dropped out, and I'm doing like home remodeling kind of stuff with my brother right now for work, and just trying to make music, and hopefully I can do it for a living someday.
Do you all do much touring, or at least when there was touring? How much of that kind of stuff did you all do?
I think we would have done a lot of it if the circumstances were just different. We've been on 2 tours. Both of them did not go very well. We broke down both times. One time in Texas. We're from Arkansas, by the way, if anybody didn't know that. But one time we broke down in Dallas, Texas, in the hot sun for about 8 hours. Then one time we broke down in Virginia, which is like fucking 13 hours away from Arkansas.
At in Virginia?
Had to rent a truck that we all piled in and pulled our trailer back, and then had to go back and get the bus later.
Oh, wow.
Where at in Virginia?
Falls Church.
I don't know where that's at.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Okay.
But we're from West Virginia, so it's like right, kind of close.
Well, I'm from Virginia.
You're from Virginia,
Yeah.
Brennan. No one cares.
It's like I think it's where like all the military bases and stuff are.
Okay.
But it was actually really, really lucky. My life is like, I don't know. I think I like run on luck a little bit, like that superhero in Deadpool 2, where her superpower is just luck. We broke down in Virginia, so far from home, and I have an aunt and uncle that were like 10 minutes away.
Wow.
So we just stayed with them.
That's a little bit more than luck there.
Yeah, that's good.
You I don't know if we mentioned it when you were on the podcast or if we were doing it when we took our break. You mentioned something about being signed to a record label.
Yeah.
What
we are Census. Sorry, go ahead.
What label are you guys signed to? How is all of that? How long have you been signed to them? All that good stuff.
So Census just signed, I think in September.
Okay.
To Adventure Cat Records, and Adventure Cat is a record label that is a branch of the management company K Management, and it's run by Michael Kaminsky and Matthew Clark. And so the way that happened was actually really, really cool. Another like super, super lucky thing, like where it's just too coincidental to be fathomable. Whenever I was first thinking about dropping out of college, I had a lot of anxiety about it. I was really scared, but I had just come back from a vacation with my family, and I was thinking about how I don't think I want to keep being in college. And it's like so daunting because I'm halfway done, you know? I literally like know enough piano. I took enough classes that I'm certified to be a choir teacher. Like, that's how much piano that I learned. But I was very sad, and so I was like, I'm going to post a sad Instagram cover of some song. It was a Stand Atlantic song, which is my favorite band right now also. And so I was recording this cover for Instagram, and I literally, like, the lyrics were hitting me so hard that I couldn't get through it without starting to cry or like tear up a little bit. And so I'm just sitting like at my piano filming myself crying, and I'm like, I can't fucking upload this to Instagram. This is just sad. So I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to upload it to Twitter. And it's like me singing for a little bit, tearing up and stopping for half a second, and then I keep going. And I get an email the next day. So the night that I filmed that cover is the same night that I decided I'm going to tell my family that I'm dropping out of school. And the next day after that, I got an email from Matthew Clark, and he was like, hey, I'm the manager for Stand Atlantic, and we have a record label called Adventure Cat, and we'd love to talk to you and see if you'd be interested. So that's how all of that started.
Oh, wow. Holy shit. That again is a little bit more than luck.
But I mean, it's also a showcase of talent and hard work.
For sure.
Well.
I mean, your talent proves itself, even just with the one song again that we've been talking about this podcast. It's you put the work in to make a good product, and that's half the battle, is having a product that's worth listening to. At some point, quality trumps quantity, especially when you're so far into a product that is a band or a podcast or whatever it is that you're producing. Quality trumps anything else, because if it's not quality, then you're not going to get that recognition. And I think you guys have a quality product that really kind of speaks for itself.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
For sure. It's it's really interesting to hear that side of things, just how easy it can happen if you just put the work in. Because I mean, you've been putting work in on Instagram and TikTok, and TikTok's where I found you. Again, for those at home that can't see, the joke there is that we don't record the podcast for video, and every episode we mention something about those that are at home that can't see, because we don't record video.
Everybody loves a good joke that you have to explain.
Yeah. But you're putting the work in through the marketing that you're doing just as your own personal brand, and I think it's really starting to pay off for you. So kudos to you, especially again being so young, putting that amount of work in and getting recognition for it is probably a huge payoff.
You for sure made 3 more fans from this, and then hopefully more from any listeners that you get from the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Anything else that you want to?
I can't think
No?
of anything right now.
Do you have anything else that you want to say before we cut the broadcast?
What's up, y'all? My name is Ben Carey. If you've been listening, you know I am kind of trying to grow my following on TikTok. So my TikTok is Ben Census, Census. Go follow me on TikTok. I'm also Ben Census on literally every other platform. I sing for a band called Census. We just put out a song last month called Sunbeam, and we made a music video for that song that we're super duper proud of. You can find it on YouTube right now, and we used that video to kind of bring awareness to sexual assault. So we're really proud of that one. And that's it. Just follow me and follow Census if you want to.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on and sharing more about what your Apeirophobia is, the song and the lyrics behind it. And more than I thought that we'd talk about your band and everything involved. So thank you again for being on. And it seems like you're starting to pay off some of those debts that you've kind of cashed in over the years of putting work in to grow this thing into what it's become. So kudos to you, and don't stop working for it. So
yeah, I won't. Thank you guys so much. I had a good time talking.
Good.
We will we'll maybe have you on again just to catch up with you later on in 2021, if assuming 2021's better than 2020. I'm fingers crossed.
Who knows?
Hopefully you'll start touring, and if you head down this way, we'll hopefully have something for you to. Maybe we could get the GBC Jam to feature them.
Do something
next summer.
Get them a show.
We'll see what we can do. Those at home listening, go check out Census Band. I'll have links to all their stuff in the show notes, so find them down there. Stay classy.
Stay classy.
I feel cold for the first time in my life. I'm afraid of losing the world. A revelation on my skin, it plants a seed and it begins to haunt me. At night I can't sleep. I'm